Hello and greetings, everyone. We are back and we're excited to be back. We left off with the definition of a fiduciary. This video, we're going to talk about conservator. That's one of the titles under fiduciary that you can, that you have the capacity to work. What I mean by that is you can be a conservator. Let's go into the handbook for conservators, which we use here in California. The handbook for conservators is one of the books that I studied out of. It looks pretty thick, but once you start reading it, it's so exciting and so detailed, and you can get so much information. Books are our friends. Conservatorship. What is a conservator? A conservator is a person or organization chosen to protect and manage the personal care or finances, or both, of someone who has been found by a judge to be unable to do so. That means you have to be in court. So it's a legal proceeding. It's a court proceeding. So anybody under conservatorship, you know that the courts found them unable to care for themselves, and a conservator had to be appointed to take that role. What conservators have in common is their willingness to help someone who needs assistance in making his or her way in the world. That's true. As I mentioned before, we step into the shoes of a person who has become incapacitated, and we make sure that they have the services they need. And that I also talked about the sub businesses that we need, and we'll get into that further down the road. But we know what a conservator is, and you have to be appointed by the court. The position of conservator is one of great trust and responsibility. That's your fiduciary responsibility. Duties of the conservator of the person and conservator of the estate. Okay, so we know what a conservator is. So there's two different types of conservators. You can be either the conservator of the estate or the conservator of the person. Yes, I've been both, and they're both great, but I rather deal with the estate. I'm able to make sure and manage money a lot better. I'm equally good at both, but I prefer to manage the estate because if there's real estate, if there's trust in bonds that needs to be managed, any type of assets that need to actually be sold or managed. They may have a grocery store, they may have an existing business that they can't run anymore, that I may step in and keep running by hiring the employees or sell off the assets in the business. So I like doing that. The person, that's someone who can't care for themselves, so you have to bring those services in as a conservator. You have to make sure that they're getting the services they need, and we'll talk about those services. Okay, right now, we'll talk about the duties of conservators of the person. Let's talk about that first. Okay, so the court appoints a conservator of the person to help someone take care of his or her daily needs. When someone needs help managing his or her finances, the court appoints a conservator of the estate. So when they need help taking care of their needs, day-to-day activities of daily living, they get a conservator of the person. And when they need someone to help with their finances, they get a conservator of the estate. Once you are appointed as conservator, it becomes your responsibility or legal duty to provide this help depending on the type of appointment you are appointed to. It's definitely your both. It's your legal and your responsibility, or I should say your legal responsibility, to make sure that whatever type of conservatorship you're appointed to, it's managed well. Let's do a brief summary of the duties of the conservator of the person. You arrange for the conservatee's care and protection. That's a new word, conservatee. So that's the person being conserved. You decide where the conservatee will live. You make arrangement for the conservatee's health care, meals, clothing, personal care, housekeeping, transportation, recreation. Also, you may be required to report to the court on the conservatee's current status. There's no maybe to it. You definitely have to report to the court. There's oversight, heavy oversight in this business because these people are incapacitated and the courts want to know that you're doing a great job. So you're reporting yearly. And when you first start the case, you're reporting probably twice a year, 3 times a year, depending on the setup. Okay, so let's do a brief summary of the duties of conservator of the estate. You manage the conservatee's finances. You locate and take control of the conservatee's assets. You collect income due to the conservatee. You make a budget to show what the conservatee can afford. You pay the conservatee's bills. You invest the conservatee's money. You protect the conservatee's assets. You account to the court and to the conservatee for your management of the conservatee's assets. It's very important when you're conservator of the estate because you want to keep the estate viable. So you have to make smart financial decisions. You're a financial manager in that case. And all of these things, managing, creating a budget, knowing how much they can spend a month on various services that they may need, that's important because you can be appointed conservator of the person and you may not be conservator of the estate. You may be conservator of the estate and not conservator of the person. So you have to be able to work well with whoever you're working with. Me personally, I prefer to be conservator of the person in a state if I'm going to be the conservator. That way there will be no squabbling and all the responsibility will be on me. So if you're the conservator of the person, you're going to make sure that the caregivers are there, making sure that they're caring for the person, that they're eating healthy, they're seeing their doctors, they're taking their medication, they're going out on outings, whether it's adult activities at senior centers, you're making sure that they're clean, that they're bathed, those type of things you do as conservator of the person. For conservator of the state, you're making sure that all of their bills are paid, their housing bills are paid, you're making sure that their activities are paid for, you're making sure that their medical bills are paid for. Any bills, you're searching through them and you're making sure that they're legitimate bills and that you're going to take care of it. All while you're making sure that, okay, as long as they live, they'll be able to live comfortably the life that they were living before. So we have the conservator, which is the licensed fiduciary. You're also the conservator. You get appointed through the probate court. Let me stop right here and say that's not the only way you can get appointed or go on as you won't be conservator, but you can be a trustee. So I'm also licensed and certified as a trustee. So we'll get into that later, but these are for people who have become incapacitated for one reason or the next. Those are the only people that need conservatorships. There are several types of a conservatorship. You have probate conservatorships, which all conservatorships are probate. You have general conservatorships, limited conservatorships for people with developmental disabilities. You have temporary conservatorships. You have the Letterman Petrus Short or LPS conservatorships. So I'm going to go over the types of conservatorships on the next video, but I wanted to let you know what a conservator does under the license of a fiduciary. That's one of the businesses that you can have just by being a licensed fiduciary. You can focus on conservatorships and be a conservator. That can be a main focus. Many of fiduciaries, that's all they focus on, are conservatorships, and they have a great relationship with the probate court. So I want to thank you again for coming. I want to thank you again for listening. If you have any questions, go ahead and make a comment in the comment section. I'll answer all questions, and peace and greetings to everybody, and thank you so much for coming, and we'll talk real soon. Next time is going to be the types of conservatorships. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.